right, welcome to the Internet Marketing Association's broadcast of some executive team members, gurus from Channel Bakers, a global advertising agency helping brands find the right audience at the right time to tell their story, and most importantly, drive sales. In fact, Channel Bakers was one of the first agencies purely focused on Amazon advertising, and they're a true leader in the space. Today, we're going to talk about Amazon's Prime Day and how businesses can prime the pump and optimize their presence on Amazon well ahead of the big day. I'd like to welcome Josh Kreitzer, CEO, Brad Maum, Director of Creative Services, Tyler Spear, Director of Business Development and Operations, and Sarah Laville, VP of Client Success. Let's kick things off today by first talking about current e-commerce and the whole Amazon environment. Everyone is tied into this one way or another. In response to COVID-19 and everything going on in the world, this unprecedented time that we're all living through, Amazon has shifted all of their attention to essential shopping items. And now we're seeing a heavy impact on non-essential brands. How important is Prime Day this year for non-essential brands? I'll throw that out to maybe Josh first. And Josh, what is that t-shirt? Just curious, behind your jacket.
This is our creative team's genius. I love it. I've got 99 problems and Amazon ate one. We did that for NAM this year. There's industries that love Amazon and there's other industries that are a little hesitant.
Right.
And we'd have fun and break the ice with everything we did at NAM. So Brad and all of his creative genius created these epic shirts for the show, and we thought we'd rock them today.
Very cool. Well, that ties into my first question. What are your thoughts, Josh?
Yeah, so first, I want to congratulate Amazon in the direction of them wanting to take care of everybody out there. Yes, it's frustrating that they deem some categories not essential versus essential, but just in the landscape of what I've been told about the hand sanitizer volume, something to the tune of 10,000 bottles of hand sanitizer being moved every 2 hours. That's the reason why there's a essentials focus right now. So we're not entirely sure of when that's going to start to go back to normal. On the outset, it was rumored to be April 5th, April 6th timeframe. But as the world is today, that's kind of shifted. A number of our clients are beginning to get POs beginning to trickle in for those brands and clients of ours that are not essential. But Prime Day is going to be that big push for them this year. And the last rumor was that Prime Day is going to be August timeframe instead of July like it normally is. And that's okay, because that gives us a lot of time to prime the pump. It's a fun narrative we like to use at Channel Bakers is getting ready for Prime Day. Let's prime the pump. And with that, there's a lot of different strategies and tactics and things that you can do that we wanted to share today.
Awesome. Anyone else thoughts on that?
I just want to give a shout out to Amazon for what they did deem essential and not. Obviously, cleaning supplies, groceries. But hey, big thanks for us parents out there for making puzzles, Nerf guns, and video games essential. Thank you, Amazon. And to echo what Josh is saying, we get it, right? We understand why Amazon had to kind of shift priorities, deprioritize certain categories. But, I feel like they even came through with their promise a little earlier than they said they were going to, because initially it was kind of a full stop until early April. But we did start to see a lot of clients start to receive POs that were in non-essential categories. Consumers were receiving their non-essential items a little faster than previously promised. So I feel like there's a lot of light at the end of the tunnel. And by the time the summer rolls around, we're gonna be maybe not where we were pre-COVID, but we're going to be a lot closer and a lot readier to support Prime Day for sure.
I'm going to just tie off on that one more time. Sorry. I know this seems like an Amazon love fest, but just go with me on this. The other thing that I'm pretty proud of Amazon for doing is I'm just going to continue to use hand sanitizers because that's a product category that exploded overnight and a couple of our clients are there. But they also put into place some restrictions about what seller brands as well as wholesale brands can do with hand sanitizer. So first and foremost, all the major brands like your Purell and even Amazon's own Salimo, all of that hand sanitizer, if you go to buy them on Amazon, and you can find them there, they all have a badge on there that said this is reserved for hospitals, first responders, and government agencies. So they're taking the products that they have the most allocation of and the easiest product flow in and out of their fulfillment centers, and they're allocating that to give to all of the hospitals, first responders, et cetera. The other, and some of you may have seen the article, you can Google it, but there was a guy that ran around and gobbled up all the hand sanitizer, toilet paper, and Clorox bleach wipes, and then went onto Amazon and was selling like a bottle of hand sanitizer for something like $20 a bottle for a 2-ounce bottle, which is insane, and was just trying to take advantage. Yay for the entrepreneurial spirit, but boo for being totally unethical and not helping people in a time of need. So the one thing that I can share is, Amazon, it's not a formal policy, but their strong recommendation with regard to what you can sell as fair market value for hand sanitizers is 50 cents to $1 an ounce. Anything over that, your product goes into a review. And they're trying very diligently daily to make sure that nobody's jumping onto Amazon with hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of bottles of hand sanitizer at a ridiculous $5 an ounce price point or worse, right? Which is what we saw on the outset. So again, it's kudos to Amazon for stepping up and trying to help the consumer get what they need to be safe. Obviously, flatten the curve. That's what we all want. And I'd say I'm proud of them for doing that. I know that doesn't necessarily answer the initial question, Sanon. We kind of went on a tangent, but kudos to Amazon.
Yeah. Anyone else on essentials, non-essentials? Just curious, Tyler? Yeah.
Yeah. Directly answering that question with regard to, is Prime Day going to be super important for non-essential brands? Absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt, if you've missed out on sales that might have hit a seasonal curve for you, didn't get in front of the consumer because you've been stocked out, those types of things, Prime Day is going to be the best opportunity that you'll likely have all year long to get back in front of the consumer, re-kickstart your PO algorithm with Amazon, and ensure that you're starting to get closer to your 2020 sales projections that you had originally had. So a huge focus this year, especially for non-essential brands, and I think this is true globally, will be to get in front of consumers, offer price points that are super competitive, and take advantage of Amazon's push because they want to make Prime Day as successful as possible, which they do a pretty damn good job of.
Absolutely. Anything else to add there, Brad? Are you good? Okay. Well, knowing that we've got over 60,000 brands at the Internet Marketing Association, everyone's wondering, like, how do I get myself ready for Prime Day? So everyone's got a different product or solution. Any thoughts for all the brands out there? I mean, you guys are overseeing some of the most progressive, most awesome products on Amazon. I'd love to just share your advice with our community.
So I'm going to just jump in real quick and kind of like phase this out. So step 1, step 2, step 3 kind of approach.
Cool.
I'm very adamant about, in the landscape of e-commerce, we call it conversion rate optimization. On Amazon, we call it detail page optimization. It's still conversion rate optimization. And I believe that begins with your content and telling your story. You said it right when we started in the start of this video. We're very adamant about telling your story. Brad has not only built a number of brands, but also we daily optimize, whether it's content on the detail page, brand stores, you name it. So I'm going to let Brad start, and then there's some stats I want to share because I want to just make sure that everybody's aware that mobile this year is going to be critical. So Brad, I'll let you jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with regards to content, as we're preparing for Prime Day, obviously we want to make sure that our product detail pages are set up for success, right? So what does that mean? We're looking at things like optimizing titles and bullet points, descriptions, back-end keywords to make sure that those are relevant. But more so, one thing I really want to speak about is not just A+ content. Everybody knows about A+ content. We've seen those metrics where it's, it can increase sales from 3 to 10% based on Amazon's numbers. Some saying even higher in certain circumstances. But one thing that's really important is consumers say that 73% of consumers say that detailed content is really the key factor in purchasing a product, right? And one of those things too is also making sure that we're talking about the product in a way that sets up expectations of what they're going to get when it actually arrives, right? Which is going to lead to things like less return rate, or I should say lower return rate, higher satisfaction, better reviews, things like that. But how do we get there? How, we get there through things like our enhanced image gallery, right? So, we talk about A+, it's great, it's the cherry on top. I always say do A+, but focus primarily on your image gallery, because right there is your very first opportunity to engage with the shopper. And on the mobile experience, which we're seeing, I think the last stat I saw was 52% of users were using mobile first. So we want to make sure that we're really capturing that mobile audience first, having them at the front of mind, and using things like image gallery is perfect because it takes over the entire screen on mobile. So when you're looking at your mobile device, when you're scrolling through the image gallery, you're seeing your story unfold full screen about your product, about your service, and really use that opportunity to tell your story, tell your brand story, tell your product story. Hero images are great. Angled shots are great, but it's not telling the full story there. You really want to key on things like lifestyle images, talk about, key selling points. You also want to talk about, reviews. You can actually include reviews in your image gallery. So as long as it's an Amazon verified review, you can put it in your image gallery. And you can brand it. So it makes it look like it's part of your brand ecosystem, which is awesome. So, definitely creative, setting up your pages for success through image gallery, A+ premium. If you have it, awesome. A+ premium is solid. Making sure that your titles, bullet points, back and keywords are all set up for success. That's one component. The other component would be things like your brand store. If you have a brand store, if you don't, you need to get one. There's a lot of reasons around that. One, we've seen that brand stores, if you're not utilizing a brand store, if people are searching for your product, they click on your byline when they're on the product detail page. Sometimes it's going to a landing page where your competitors are actually being advertised on this landing page alongside your products. So invest in time in the brand store. It's definitely should be part of your key strategy in 2020. And then also making sure that it's updated. Sorry, Josh, you look like you were going to say something, dude.
I'm ready to jump in, but I've got stats behind everything you just said I want to share.
Oh, go for it, dude. Yeah, I was going to dive into that, but by all means, go for it.
Oh, no, I'll let you finish, bro. Go for it. All right, so.
Are you guys going to just fight it out right now? I mean, what's going on here? I know you're the Brady Bunch, but this could get ugly.
Since he was 4 and I was 6, it's one thing, to hire your best friend. It's another one he's talented and skilled and has the exact skill set you need. So it's not like pure nepotism. He's my bro. We'll fight it out later. But long and short of it, the couple stats I just wanted to drop in that narrative behind mobile. 77% of U.S. people actually have a smartphone. As of January 5th, 2020, 79% of those smartphone users actually purchased a product on a smartphone. So it's highly critical to make sure that that's really important. The other thing that was, the next organic question that rolls off your tip of your tongue is like, okay, well, what app are they using and where are they shopping? Well, 51% of US online shoppers are using the Amazon app. And then with a few updates that go to the app, when you now click on the image, it no longer does that weird zoomy thing where it like highlights a section of the image. It actually, when you click on the image gallery now, it overtakes the entire screen. So, that's really important, again, with what Brad was sharing, making sure your image gallery is layering in all of your A+ content through the image gallery. This is a best practice that actually began with seller brands and challenger brands that did not have access to Vendor Central. Because in Seller Central, you can swap your images out very quickly, within 15 minutes. They were using this tactic to integrate their brand story through the image gallery. And thanks to some various different apps out in the world, if you swipe left and right, that's the new behavior versus scrolling up and down. And with that, you want to be able to tell your product story through your image gallery. And then I think, Brad, the other day we were talking on the mobile app, you get the hero image plus 6 images for most categories, while on desktop, laptop, you name it, Non-app, you can have up to 12 depending on what category you're in. So really getting your image gallery enhanced. It's no longer just cool to have a lifestyle image. What's happening in that lifestyle image and why does it matter is really what's important. And then the other best practice is to actually, before you start to invest in redoing your image galleries, look at what's happening in your reviews and the conversation that's happening there so that you can answer some of the pain points or questions that are frequently being asked in your image gallery. Like put them into that A+ content through your image gallery. It's
John, you're giving away secret sauce now, dude. Come on.
Kentucky Fried Chicken would be compelled.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, that seems like it's common sense, but a lot of people aren't doing it. They're not looking at their reviews. They're not looking at people, the things that people are saying in their frequently asked questions, and they're not addressing those in their image gallery. And that just seems like low hanging fruit. So
image gallery, not in their bullet points, and then, it's really not secret sauce, but I mean, if you're not leveraging what search terms data you're getting either out of your ad campaigns, or if you have access to the search terms report, which I do believe everybody now has through brand analytics, if you're brand registered. But having said that, if you're not leveraging that search terms data throughout your product titles, that's a miss. I've come from big brands that I've worked for, like brands like GoPro, and we had a creative director, and they were very adamant about everything being on brand all the time. And I get that. I totally get that, especially in your call to actions for your ad creative. But when it comes to your actual product titles, you want to always be relevant, top of mind, and also, again, answering the questions that people are asking. If you put that into your product title, because it's the first thing people see in a search results page, why aren't you doing that, right? I get it. There's brand guidelines, and you need to stick to that. But for the most part, it's a new landscape, it's a new world, and you want to prime the pump.
Yeah, absolutely. And with regards to that messaging about titles and things like that, it's really a blend of art and science, right? We look at what the data says and what people are searching for, and we want to stuff those titles with as much relevant content as possible, while also being very informative, to the consumer, so they understand what your product is, especially in a catalog where you have multiple products that might be the same or similar, I should say. You want to make sure that those differentiators are clear, so that people, as they're shopping, it provides a better user experience and a better shopping experience. But yeah, there's a lot of alchemy that goes into building good titles and bullet points. And for those of you that have tried doing it in the past, I'm sure you can attest to that. But going back to what Josh was saying about image gallery, just overall your product detail page. There was a study that was done, and then showed that there was about 23% lift in sales for folks that were just making incremental changes on their pages with enhanced image galleries, like we've been talking about, adding some A+ content, or if you were a seller, it was EDC or enhanced brand content, and also making sure that you're incorporating video, which we really haven't talked about just yet. But video is king. I think we all kind of intuitively know that, and there are numbers to support that. But video content, people want to engage with video. People don't want to read blocks of text. They want to be told the story, right? So video is always the best medium to focus in on. So including videos in your image galleries are absolutely key. And then if you have A+ Premium, you can also include those videos in the A+ Premium content below the fold as well. And now, brand stores as well, they're including video content, even looping video. So just adding more visual interest to your brand stores, to where maybe it's not even anything that you necessarily want to showcase like as an explainer video, but just adding some moving texture to your brand store that kind of helps tell that brand story. That's another best practice. So that's a free one for you guys. Make sure that you're implementing video on your brand stores as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's a lot to say about video, and there's a lot to say about brand stores. If we have time, we'll come back to like brand store best practices. And there's a whole nother video that we can do just about when do I send traffic to a product detail page versus when do I send it to a brand store, or when do I send it to a custom landing page. At the end of the day, I think there's some really good best practices. I want to move on. Like that was step one, and we addressed it fairly good. I kind of want to move on to like step two. Right now, again, we've discussed a lot about essentials, non-essentials, and that's caused, even in the direction of like Amazon extending ship delivery windows to the actual consumer for non-essentials, for inventory that's already there. It's caused a challenge where a number of our clients are starting to identify overstock and stale inventory. And there needs to be a quick deep dive or a more serious look into moving it. And again, we've worked with large enterprise brands here at Channel Bakers. The bulk of who we serve is large enterprise brands. And there's a lot of concern with regard to, well, I don't want to discount that product because it's going to cause channel conflict right now. The landscape has changed, and I get it. I get it intensely because I used to be the internet guy at every brand I worked for, and I got yelled at every day by the retail brick and mortar guy or the distribution guy, what have you. But where we are right now, you don't want that inventory to go stale. You don't want to wait until Prime Day to discount those products. You want to get it out of stock and moving now because it affects your account health. And when one of the key factors in buy box ownership down the road for future buy box ownership is your account health. And if you let inventory sit, and this applies both for vendor central brands as well as seller based brands, and those are on a hybrid model, you should be absolutely looking at all of your stale inventory and putting promotions behind it. Amazon has some pretty cool tools now on both vendor central and seller central that can still help you keep it relatively discreet. And then there's some other advertising levers that we'll talk about in a second to be able to drive traffic to those promos where you could still do it very, very discreet. And that could help you get rid of that stale inventory. The purpose behind that, whether it's a conversation with the vendor manager leading up to Prime Day, or again, you and your seller accounts have, what your limit is for what inventory you can send in. You want to clear it out so that the products you actually want to promote for Prime Day that are a corporate focus for you, or more importantly, the products that you're actually getting from a supply chain standpoint are available to send into Amazon. That is where you want to do a deep dive and look at all of that product. And then the last, thought I would have on the best practice, and this came up in a QBR the other day. I used to work in the computer memory landscape. So our literal industry pricing was changing every single day. So every single day, the first thing I did when I logged into my computer was log into Vendor Central and daily download my inventory report. And that's something now, looking at the landscape we're in, is something you'll probably want to consider. If you're an essentials brand, let's say you've got, monitors as an example, your thought might be, well, I can't keep anything in stock and my supply chain, is what it is. Do I even need to advertise? I want to address that in a minute, but I really want to tie off with this mindset behind stale inventory and moving it. You've got to get rid of it so that you can get those fresh new POs. That's what your company needs to stay alive, no matter how big or small you are. Get rid of that inventory, do promotions, think about it from a lightning deal type pricing standpoint. Look at 20% off or more. Look at, in some instances, maybe 30% off. And again, there's different tools and levers you can pull that can make those promotions available to the end user shopper without it being public on your product detail page. Anybody else on my team? Sorry, I know I kind of...
Yeah. I want to give all the viewers a freebie here. And echoing, a little bit of what you're saying, Josh, is that, when we talk about items that are go forward items or focused items, overstock opportunities, we really want to be very, very careful about how we are discounting those products. So, one of the biggest pain points for a lot of e-commerce folks are unauthorized 3P sellers. And what I would caution everyone is that if the item that you're looking to clear out is a go forward item in your catalog, meaning it is going to be one that will exist going forward, it's not a clearance situation, I would not discount it more than 30%, because that seems to be the sweet spot. As soon as you go over a 30% discount, that will fuel the 3P marketplace. They will grab it at a discount. Even if you only limit it one per person, they have ways around that, okay? So then those items will come back to haunt you, because they will then undercut your ASP, your average sales price, which will drive your profitability score down, which now becomes this domino effect of garbage you have to deal with, and you have to deal with it. So let's talk about the prevention and the cure. The prevention: don't discount more than 30% so you don't fuel that unauthorized 3P marketplace. And, a lot of what Josh and Brad are talking about, really important, right? This is retail readiness. This is e-com 101. This is conversion driving content. These are the spring cleaning things that you want to do to get yourself ready for Prime Day. And these are things that you should be doing from time to time anyways. But this is the perfect time. We have a little bit of extra time built into our planning, our spring cleaning. Let's take advantage of it, right? What Brad said, totally valid. Focus on that content. Everything above the fold, meaning everything that a customer gets to when they click on your page before they scroll, is called above the fold. It's an old newspaper term. You want to make sure that that is super content rich, that has all those keywords, those juicy keywords. Your photos are beautiful. They're not lifestyle photo. We don't care if someone is holding a Red Bull in a park. That says nothing about what the product is. Let's talk about features and benefits and attributes and sell some items, right? All right, above the fold content. Operation strategy, what Josh is saying, let's focus on what we have overstock of that is a go forward item. Put a strategy behind that that's not going to kick yourself in the butt down the road. Then you have the rest of your catalog that you need to still give some love to. This is a really great time to look at your promotional cadence, because a lot of folks, a lot of brands will build their calendar up to Prime Day and then of course holiday. Well, now that those dates have shifted, some brands have lost sales, some brands have gained sales. Let's go back to the drawing board. Let's take a look at that promotional cadence to again, more influence converting tactics. And then of course, take a look at your data, see what's selling, see what's not selling, really on the back end of your catalog, look at your profitability. If you're a vendor central brand, this is a great time to start trying to fix some of those problems before you drive traffic to all of these items and promote items that Amazon does not see as very profitable. All right, more prevention here. Something else I want to talk about that I'm really passionate about is making sure you have a really good review strategy. This is not something that's talked about often, and this is a huge miss from a lot of brands. Not having a good review strategy, what does that mean? Well, that means we don't have a process in place to respond to reviews, to speak with the consumer when they have an issue or a challenge. Anything 3 stars or below, every single one of those you should be responding to in an authentic way, in your brand voice, not in a copy paste, very sterile type of a response. If someone hated your product, have fun with it. Respond to them that you care in your brand voice. Make it right. Offer to send them a replacement. These are very important things that a lot of brands are not doing, and it is a huge miss. Because what happens when we drive traffic to an item, we're doing brand building tactics on Amazon, they check that above the fold content, where do they go next? Right down to those reviews. And anytime a brand doesn't respond to their negative reviews, the consumer sees it as kind of an admission of guilt, right? So this is a great opportunity to show your existing consumers, potential consumers, that you care. So and then something else that can play into advertising strategy is looking at how your consumers are talking about your products, pulling out those like juicy keywords, adding them into your bullets, and then into your back-end metadata and your search strategy.
Sarah, how did you do all that in one breath? That's amazing.
Look at that. I know. I talk fast for a New Yorker, don't I?
How long can you hold your breath underwater is my question.
Let's find out.
Okay. Well, right there is the science, right? So, you guys are pumping millions of dollars in sales on behalf of your brands. And some of those strategies you just hit on, it's like liquid gold for our listeners. So I really appreciate that. And along those lines, has Channel Baker shifted strategies for clients now, the ones that you guys are working for? And what are some of those strategies? What are some more secrets that you can share with our viewers?
So Tyler, I'm going to let you jump in because this is a good segue into step 3. Step 3 is advertising and advertising practices. And then I'm going to share a little bit too about what some of the overseas seller brands were doing because they didn't have access to Amazon DSP. So I'll touch on that in a second. Awesome. But Ty, thinking about everything we just discussed, step 1, step 2, content, cleaning up your detail pages, promos on stale inventory, just thinking through, advertising as a whole, whether you're using Amazon, Google, or Facebook. Do you want to just share some insights on how we need to be thinking about advertising now that we're in this landscape?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I was sitting here, I was thinking to myself, is anybody going to mention advertising? Right?
That's
And
number
I was
3
like,
on
yeah,
Josh.
come on now, guys. And so for me, I was just sitting here and quiet. I was like, there's some gold here.
You're saving the best for last, Ty. That's why.
Hey, thank you. I think there's some key things that brands can do that we're taking our brands through, and we're happy to share some of those with your viewers so that they can get some benefit. I think one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle is don't look at Prime Day as this one single tentpole event.
Right.
If you as a brand are focusing on Prime Day, thinking to yourself, I just need to be on for that 24 hours. I need to be on for that 48 hours. You're already losing it, right? We have such an opportunity this year, largely because we have the ramp up period that a couple of my colleagues called out, where we're now able to prepare really well. We talked about preparing creative. We've talked about testing inside of retail, figuring out your price points, doing these great work that you need to really get a baseline. I'll steal this one from Josh because he said it first. Inventory is the lifeblood of any good advertising campaign. So you need to be able to convert, which is what Brad's talking about. You need to be able to have inventory in stock, which is what Josh and Sarah are talking about. Now let's talk about how you execute beyond that. Cut Prime Day apart into 3 pieces. Pre-Prime Day, priming the pump. Prime Day, heavy, hard execution. And then post-Prime Day. If you're not developing a strategy both on search and on retargeting and DSP, across all 3 of those components, you're going to miss out on capitalizing on consumer interest. And that's really where COVID has kind of reshaped e-commerce, where we're seeing such a massive uptick in consumers driving, not just to Amazon, but e-commerce in general. So we're seeing massive Amazon search numbers happening. And then in addition to that, we're seeing consumers starting to browse more on your websites, on other retailers as well. So if I could give one key piece of advice, have your marketing people cut Prime Day out into 3 bits, because it'll drive you to really focus on each tactic that you can really leverage to meet consumer demand, get in front of consumers early. That way you're set up for success, not just for that tentpole event, but also before and after Prime Day.
Hey, Tyler. So I had a quick question for you. So one thing I heard you mention was you said, on the creative end, we're setting up for conversion, right? We're making our pages retail ready. And then we also talked about we're talking about the advertising piece, but nobody's mentioned getting on page 1 yet. Like what are some of the efforts? What are the things that we're doing to help people get onto page 1 to rank, right? Like,
yeah,
just throw that out to the team.
No, it's a big one because we tend to talk about creative and detailed page optimization. Josh, give me 30 seconds with regard to how the pretty images happen, right? I'm a sucker for data. And so when we're using what Josh had mentioned previously with regard to brand analytics data and getting in front of Amazon search terms, we're actually able to see what consumers are searching for, right? And when we layer that in, Sarah touched upon it when she just wrapped up around metadata in your back end. If you're actually trying to build adjacency with Amazon's algorithm and uplift what you're doing, Amazon's going to look at relevant keywords in your title, big deal, right? Your back-end keywords in your bullet points. It's going to look at how you convert against those keywords, what your click-through rates are. So now you're getting this great amalgamation of how creative affects retail conversion, that affects advertising, because those keywords I want to rank for Prime Day, I can buy today on advertising and build adjacency with that keyword over time to help push myself to the top. And I'll give Josh a little bit of a pitch here to talk about how Amazon looks at off Amazon traffic coming into Amazon, which is a great tool. So I'll pass it to Josh with that
one. Real quick, JP, take a note because it's a dovetail off of what Brad talked about with regard to creative. We don't have time to go into it today, but there is a conversation about dynamic e-commerce ads versus custom creative for your ad creative. There's a ton of best practices in that, so maybe we'll do another video discussing the best practices around ad creative, whether it be sponsored brands or whether it be DSP. So we'll come back to that for sure. But I did want to just touch on, again, this concept I teased with a little bit earlier with regard to like overseas seller brands did not have access to Amazon DSP. So what they used was Facebook and Google to drive to Amazon. This is a tactic that Well, let me put it this way. Right now, we're talking about very bottom of funnel, conversion focused campaigns and ads because we're trying to move inventory, we're trying to prime the pump, we're trying to clear out stock. And at the end of the day, the one thing that we can do within the Facebook and Google landscape that we can't do with Amazon with search is really talk and promote promotions and deals.
Right.
And that's one with which the moderation team does not let us talk about a 30% discount if we're doing a 30% discount, right? Now, we can talk a lot about that within the landscape of DSP, and that's fantastic. But more and more I've seen, whether it be channel marketers or media folks or e-com folks driving traffic back to Amazon. And again, we don't have enough time to talk about it today. I think we're gonna be doing a blog about it really soon with regard to the Amazon attribution program. And they did that because they knew that there was so much inbound traffic coming from Google and Facebook that they wanted to be able to give us a tool that we could measure sales from those campaigns coming into Amazon. But the point that, to touch on Tyler's point, the A9 algorithm is totally different. There are a lot of similarities, but totally different than, you know, Google's algorithm or any traditional search engine for that, from that standpoint. The A9 algorithm looks at things like inbound traffic, sure, they all do, but conversion, and conversion for Amazon is a sale, right? And that's the key difference between, you know, Google. There's a lot of different types of conversions in the traditional search landscape. For Amazon, it's inbound traffic that converts into a sale. That's a key influencer into organically ranking and skyrocketing your products to page one. So I'll probably tie off and leave it there. I think there's an opportunity for us to talk about a shift in doing something different, but I know that Sinan, I kind of cut you off. Did you have another question you wanted to ask before I jump into like what's different and what should you do different?
Yeah, I was just talking mainly on strategies, but in summary, just along those lines, if there was one thing, Josh, that you would recommend, what's the biggest game changer for brands that have seen a decline in sales due to, you know, the COVID environment that we're in?
Yeah, so I think the number one, outside of content and creative, like that's a no-brainer. You should be doing that. Gone are the days, by the way, where you like create a product detail page and then let it live. Product detail pages need to be continually updated. As a matter of fact, all the challenger brands that are going after the big enterprise guys are daily making adjustments and A/B testing and so forth on Amazon to update their pages. Meanwhile, a lot of the enterprise brands are just going, set up my page. My page is already set up. We're good, right? And that's not the case. It needs to be a continual, at minimum, once a quarter update. But no, I think you know, if there was one thing I want to talk about, feeding the top of the funnel, even though we're in current essentials, non-essentials landscape. And Amazon, you know, has, I think the last number was over 40 billion Fire Sticks in the market, and they've got a really phenomenal offering. It's their OTT offering. And I think that many brands go, I can't be on television. I don't have that kind of budget. And when we look at, you know, what can they be doing to prime the pump? Putting your brand on a television screen across America so that when Prime Day comes, you're in front of that audience remembers you, and then they're searching for you. Amazon's got every tool you can imagine. If you're a manufacturer of a product that belongs on a shelf, Amazon's got more tools available to you in one centralized platform that's the closest to actual converting into a sale. So taking super awareness all the way down to the conversion, like Amazon's got more tools in their toolbox from an advertising standpoint to let, as well as even in the, you know, vendor management side, Seller Central, Vendor Central, like soup to nuts, Amazon's got more available for you if you're a manufacturer that creates a product that belongs on the shelf, right? So OTT is going to be that thing that puts you on television screens across America. And no, you don't need, you know, Super Bowl-like budgets for, you know, $3 million for a 30-second ad. You know, at minimum, sure, let's call it a $50,000 minimum investment. But I think someone the other day, it was Tyler, or it could have been Sarah, was talking about like your budgets that you would otherwise, even if you're a channel marketer, your trade dollars, channel marketing dollars, like even if you were, you know, had a budget set aside for another retailer, e-commerce is where you need to shift that budget. So from a shifting strategy standpoint, Sinan, your normal budgets you'd spend for other retailers now need to be focused in the direction of leveraging Amazon. And one of the coolest tools you can take that incremental budget you can get is OTT. Absolutely. Get yourself on television screens across America. And then Sinan, for the folks in the Internet Marketing Association, you don't have to sell a product on Amazon to be able to leverage their shopper behavior data to do targeting for, ads on television through OTT. So there's fun there. There's a fun story too. We don't have time today, but for the non-endemic folks, the folks that don't sell a product on Amazon, we can also leverage Amazon advertising to drive traffic to your site. So I just kind of want to put a pin there. Sarah, Tyler, Brad, anybody want to talk on OTT? And I think maybe this would be a great time, Brad, and everybody to share video best practices and how important video is.
Some important stats on OTT, just for anyone who's maybe considering it versus traditional media buy. So the big ticket with OTT and why it's so great is that it utilizes Amazon first party data to make segments. And so instead of like the traditional spray and pray model where we're looking at a demographic of an entire channel or a program, we can now get very specific, drilling right down to consumer interests and habits and based off of what they're browsing and purchasing on Amazon. So this is an unskippable video ad, over 30 million users that you could potentially be reaching. And to Josh's point, you don't have to have super high production value videos. It's either 6, 15, or 30-second videos.
Time slot. I mean, really focus on the first 6 seconds. Audiences have such a short attention span now, just because that's just our culture now. We're so used to video content. So, it's really those first 6 seconds, and some people would say even less, 3 to 5, to really engage with that viewer, to really sell your product, to talk about your product, to talk about your brand story in a way that's engaging and memorable. So you really need to focus in on those first few seconds. And just just a shameless plug, that's something that we can help with. So the other thing too, with regards to video content, it's really important also, especially you want to make sure that you're creating it in a way that doesn't necessarily need to have audio. So make sure that you're also telling a story in a way that it's visual.
Just to tie off on that, Brad, with regard to Facebook watch time, like the average watch. Again, if it's an on to answer your question a little bit more, like what's the number one thing that our clients should be looking at is, I don't care what video you have right now, let's leverage it, but let's also test it and start to come up with new video content strategies. And the other day there was a dynamic, I think one of you asked the question about Amazon Live and live streaming. Does anybody want to touch on that real quick?
Before we jump into that, Josh, real quick, I saw Tyler was kind of like doing the dance down here. He wanted to say something. So Tyler, did you want to tie off?
Yeah, I think there's a miss without mentioning specifically the TV advertisers, those who are actually diving in, who buy TV, and that's what you do. I think it was the LA Times wrote an article that referenced eMarketer. $12 billion in television dollars in advertising is gone, right? So think about it, right? There's no longer the Olympics this year, not happening. Sorry. Any ad spot you had bought for that or were preparing to build adjacency with, that's gone. NBA, March Madness, NHL, Tour de France, all gone, right? Or pushed out, right? So there's a substantial amount of money out there that TV buyers are trying to rework their new reality. The new reality is e-commerce. Right. And so for TV buyers that have been sucked into traditional media, where you're buying a geography, a demographic, trying to build adjacency with TV ads through sitcoms and shows, you get better data now. And if you ever were thinking about testing And you still need, to Sarah's point, I believe, build awareness and activity. And a great way to do, just considering for those top line advertisers that we work with that have dollars that are elsewhere, we're funneling them all back in. And I think, Sinan, just to wrap up my section, it's saying, hey, the biggest learn is being adaptable, you know, where you now have to readjust your reality to align with the new norm, as we're going to put it with COVID, right? So focusing on e-commerce, making sure your inventory is accessible to people in that space, and letting your marketing as well be flexible in order to capitalize on the season.
What a great way to bring it home. Really appreciate that, Tyler. And on behalf of the Internet Marketing Association, I present to you the gurus of channel bakers. Prime in the pump. This was a great first episode of several that we're going to do together. Thank you all so much for your time, Brad, Josh, Sarah, Tyler. On behalf of the IMA and our global brands, this is invaluable data, and we will be bringing you back live in a few more segments. So thank you very much for your time. We'll sign off now.
Catch you guys.
Thank you, guys.